You're watching Experience Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
Welcome to Minute to Skim It. I've got a wall full of books, and I've got a co-host that's going to come on and help from their end. They got a whole bunch of PDFs, so they're going to cover all the rest of the books that I can't. This is a spoiler-free review show for you. Everyone, welcome on Kyle. Look at Kyle's face. So adorable.
A face only a mother could tolerate.
You were doing the cute puppy look.
See, and I was trying to do the kind of creepy head tilt to the side, like when your dog's not sure what you're doing look.
That's probably today, as I had word salad. Easy Reader, hello and welcome. And we're Rubenstein. Welcome to the review show. We don't read an equal amount of books, did we, Kyle?
I don't know. You read like a mountain and a half, and I read like 11.
All right, we'll get started. We'll see how it works out. How's that? We'll shake it out at the end. If I have to bring it home strong at the end, we'll do that.
Yeah, I only read 11, so.
All right, I had 15.
Yeah.
And I got a bonus on the wall. All right, so I could not wait to read Kaijus Score. This one is subtitled "Steal from the Gods." In the first series of Kaijus Score, which is in development at, I believe, Sony right now, you had a group of loosely connected bad guys that had been putting together this cool heist that they were going to do while there was an actual kaiju attack happening, which makes it extra difficult. But to me, the complexity of that series was that the people that were on the heist weren't all they had said they were, and they had never worked together before, so there was no way for them to know. And so there was some double cross and some shenanigans happening in the behind the scenes. So this is actually this series is the primary person is that character who was the problem in the last book, who wasn't who they say they were, and now they have kind of made up their mind to do heists, even though they said they wouldn't really. So they're doing heists, but they've got kind of a code that they're trying to follow so that they don't end up in a situation like they did for that big kaiju score. And so, of course, you can tell from the title that they're probably going to be talked out of such things and be talked into doing something that is another big heist. The who and the who they're going to do it with and who they're stealing from is all very cool. The same art team that you're used to from the original Kaiju Score, so it all looks the same to your eyes, and it's got me hooked totally. It's really anything with kaiju in it in general I love. But I just love the kind of I'll say it's kind of like someone was talking about Farmhand. The art style in Farmhand where the people have dimensions that aren't exactly what you would see in real life at all. It's a little bit odd, but it makes it stand out in the crowd for art style.
And you don't mean like 90s Captain America where his chest could not have sustained, its structure under the laws of physics. It's just almost caricature style, right? It's stuff is just a little disproportionate.
Yeah, the eyes are just not quite anime eyes, but not comic style eyes. And there's a big heavy line art for inking that I love. So it's that kind of
Yeah, not the pectoral shelf.
No pectoral shelves, no. Although the female forms may be drawn skinnier than they could possibly be in real life.
Well, that's just comic books for you.
Yes, it is. Do figure out if you should add it. I would say you could totally read this series without having to go back and read the original one. My synopsis is probably all you really need to know to enjoy this one.
All right. My first book is We Ride Titans, number 3 from Vault Comics. And now, so just for those of you who are watching this show that don't normally tune into In Stores This Week, which is next on the Experience, this is one of those books that Dan and I have read every time it's come out. What we do on our show is, instead of trying to cover as many books as possible, we pick books that we're interested in and get really deep into them. Right. And so this book, We Ride Titans, is one that we started with number 1. And it's about this family whose family job, like the family business, is driving mech robots to fight kaijus. So if you saw Pacific Rim, it's kind of like that, but like if it was like your family business, right? Like, so your dad did it and your brothers do it and now you do it, right? Like 3rd generation mech guy. And this is the story of Kit, who is the daughter of the family, who is actually the oldest, who through, we don't know yet, winds up not being the driver of the Titan, which is the mech suit that is the defender of this city. And she leaves, she gets out of the family business and she's living her own life. And in the first issue, you find out some stuff has gone down with her brother. He's suffering from an incredibly common affliction that I'm not going to spoil because it does have a through line through all the books, but can no longer be the driver of the Titan. So she gets called back to the family business in one of those, just when I thought they were out, they pulled me back in moments, you know. And she finds herself riding the Titan and trying to kind of keep her family together and figure out why her family is falling apart. This is the 3rd issue. At the end of the 2nd issue, you see your first big battle sequence. So this issue picks up where that one left off and kind of gives you more, as the issue goes on, family backstory. So if stores carried this, I would wager to guess that they have the first 2 issues probably available. And if they don't, they can order them for you. It's definitely one to pick up, especially if you... Should I just spoil the affliction? Like, is it...
I think by 3, I think you're okay.
Well, okay. Especially if you come from a family that has a history of alcoholism.
Okay.
That's what the brother is. He's dealing with some alcoholism problems. And so, especially if you can relate to that story and maybe not having those problems like Kit doesn't necessarily have, it's a really interesting look. Also, giant mech bots fighting with giant, kaiju. So, you can't go wrong with that.
I feel like there's a theme in our first 2 books. Let's see if we can keep it.
That's why I picked that book to be first.
I also want to give a shout out to people who have just joined us. Josh just joined us. BBB has just joined us. And Scott, hi, everybody, and welcome.
Say hi when you get here.
Oh, and the other thing I want to mention about Vault. Do encourage your local comic shop if they haven't decided to carry Vault. Vault is one of those companies that's super hands-on and has kind of a safety net for your local comic shop. They do have returnability, which I know sounds kind of weird to say out loud, but it does allow your comic book shop to carry stuff like kind of risk-free, right? They have to put the money up front, but then if it doesn't sell off the rack, they can return it. So they might not know that. So if you encourage them that maybe you can try out Vault, and if it doesn't work out for their space, then totally cool. But it is one of those things that gives me a safety net. I go in a little bit deeper so that I have more copies on the rack just in case people come in at issue 3. So I still have 1 and 2 around. Don't drive drunk mechs is bad. No, especially giant mechs. And actually in the first issue, he does have a drunk driving a mech incident that you're like, oh man. That would be really good on like a movie. I like those kinds of moments where you're like,
when you've never seen him,
loses it.
right? If you've never seen a mech pass out drunk, issue 1 of We Ride Titans, man.
All right. Now everyone's going to go find it tomorrow. This is a cool new Image book called A Town Called Terror.
I'm so excited for this book.
It's a Steve Niles book.
I'm super salty I didn't get a PDF of it.
Oh man, I'm sorry, dude. So Simon Kudransky, I don't know what else they have done or if they've done anything before, but man, that art style, this is a very art-driven book. It's really beautiful. A lot of the colorway is in this kind of black and red. Maybe a little bit of white going in there, but not a whole bunch. And making sure I don't, because there's another really scary one, Nightmare Country, this week, and I don't want to mix them up in my brain. So I always have to go back and when you do 15 books in a row, you sometimes lose. Oh, this one's a cool one. All right, so there are 2 things going on in this book. One involves a man who appears to be just as a form, like just a torso when you first see him, and then gets arms and legs and head attached to him, and then just manages to stand up and start moving around, which is very weird, and it doesn't feel at all like it's supposed to be like a Frankenstein story. Kind of feels like this is like not the first time that he has been reassembled at all. And it's all, the story is basically being told around this town that it really is like a sign in here that has a, terror population, however many, I'm sure. I haven't looked, but I'm sure it's got to say 666, right?
Right.
It's got to say it. But it's Niles has done so much good horror. Because is Niles 30 Days of Night?
Yes.
Okay,
and he and Simon Kudransky worked together on 30 Days of Night.
Okay, so that if you liked that series, I'm sure that you'll feel right at home.
So if you look up Simon Kudransky, because I know the name. Brothers Dracul, Black Eyed Kids, Animosity, Pestilence, Dead Day. And those are just the books from Aftershock. He's also done Penguin, Pain and Prejudice at DC. He's done Orphan Black at IDW. He's done some of Nita Ha's Nightmare blog covers. He's done Punisher at Marvel, Spawn, Vampirella at Dynamite, Cyborg and Constantine at DC. Like, he's been around forever, and all of his art is sort of this kind of dark, gritty style that you're seeing. Unless it's and I will say this, he's very good at, if the character doesn't call for that, he doesn't do it. But usually when he's on a character, it's because the story calls for that.
They're like, you know who we need.
Right. We need somebody who's an expert in paint splatter. Because blood. And yeah.
It's kind of weird. I don't think that we've seen his work on Black, White, and Blood yet.
No.
Marvel, get your stuff together.
It's true. I think he's doing a lot more creator-owned stuff now. All of his Marvel stuff was 2015, 2016, 2017. Mm-hmm. I think the newest thing I've seen him do at Marvel was he did that Punisher run 2018, 2019. What was that? The last big Punisher run they did there. And
where it was the other assassin.
Yeah, and then the Venom stuff right before Donnie and Steggy took over.
Yeah. Ship is on, and he says that you must mean business. Your hat is backward.
Actually, my hat is backward because if I put it forward, my face looks like this. Mm-hmm. I look like I'm in the dark. So, all right, my next one is Jay. What's next? Sheena, Queen of the Jungle, number 5. So, if you're not familiar with Sheena, Queen of the Jungle, I would not recommend jumping in on number 5. Just a rule of thumb. And I'll be honest, if you don't kind of have a quick understanding of who Sheena, Queen of the Jungle is, this series may not be for you. But if you've been familiar with Sheena, or you can go on Wikipedia and look it up, Sheena, Queen of the Jungle, this series has been really fun. They find themselves in a Pauly Shore, was it Stephen Baldwin situation where they're in the biodome?
Oh, I love that movie.
Shout out to Men in Hats, Safety Dance. Anyhow, they're in a biodome where some of Sheena's friends have been collected to live in this biodome, and this other character she's with, who you find out a lot about in this book, some of her, she's triggered by the biodome. So they're kind of trying to bring this, for the first 4 issues, they've been trying to figure out what's going on and bring this organization that's doing this down. And in this issue, it kind of all comes to a head, and the craziness ensues that always ensues when Sheena's involved. Now, you're going to look at the covers and be like, oh, those are cheesecake books. Like, there's a lot of women who are disproportionately drawn. Yeah, but in the book, it's kind of the same, but it doesn't matter because there's so much just sheer unadulterated violent awesomeness. Like, you don't think about that stuff once you start reading. And that's what made this super fun.
Cover. Such good hair. She has such good hair on that cover.
Yeah, I mean, so this cover is this is a Lucio Perillo. There's a Rose Besh cover that's crazy cool that I really like. It's like if Peach Momoko was doing Saturday morning anime.
Yeah,
like that kind of style.
Gonna hit big.
Yeah. So I actually ordered the Besh cover for myself. But like I said, this is the A cover. It's super cool. So many big teeth and so much flying, like arrows and knives and spears and stuff. Super fun.
Love it.
There was a small child there, and I had Sheena up. That is slightly terrifying.
They're over there playing in the kids section. They're good.
All right, small children do not read Sheena.
No, you're totally good. Everybody knows we're in a live comic shop. All right, so this is a farmhand, and everyone's been waiting for farmhand talk. So I love at the very end of this book, Guillory has like his like letter section, and it says, "I didn't really intend to take 2 years off, but here's why." And basically, it's because he's been filming the show, and then trying to get back in the mood for doing writing again, which is really cool that it's getting made. I can't wait to see what style this is happening in. I can't even imagine what it's going to look like in my brain because it's so stylized in the art for the real book. So just real quick, I'm friends with Rob, and on Facebook today he posted 4 years ago today he got his comp copies of Farmhand #1. And then everyone was like, "Do you have any more of those?" He's like, "Maybe."
Right.
That was so cute.
And he also just posted on social media links to PDFs of #1. So if you're behind, you can start there.
Oh, that's an amazing thing to do, because to go and try to find a Farmhand #1 in a price that you can afford and get gas this month is probably going to be tough.
It's true.
It started to peak. So in this one, it does actually give you a little bit of the back history of what happened. So it kind of like takes the family all the way back to when he chooses the land that became the farm where he starts these kind of like plant bio growing things. It gives you a short synopsis of like how he got his business partner and what happened to her, because she becomes critically injured at some time in the series. And then they use some of this biomaterial, which is, plant and human DNA put together, which means that it doesn't get rejected. Like if you're making, new spleens for people and etc., that it doesn't get rejected by the body, which is like what was so cool about it. But the problem is that something went wrong. And so it started to just like throw itself out into the world and infect people and override some of their human DNA and make them part plant. So that's where you are in the series, is like almost everyone has been infected by this stuff and has a little bit of like, plant tendrils going through them. And coming with that comes some abilities. Yes, you have a cat on your head.
It's a cannoli cat.
I know it's a cannoli cat. It's so cute. We just got new product in today, so she's been playing with our plushes.
It's been on her
I have to not look at her.
I was doing the Macarena in the background with cats in my hands and in my head. Here, you can show it.
She posted a picture on Facebook of her sticking her tongue out and Jay just standing there all nice. I go, that is the perfect, like, Jenna is wild and goofy and Jay is like just like normal, and it's a very great representation of the two of them.
Actually, it's a really well focused picture too. It looks professional.
Yeah.
So anyway, you should jump into Farmhand. Go get yourself a couple of trades. I think you got to get into like 4 trades to catch up if you wanted to jump in here. Okay, it's not that many, because this is issue number 16.
I think it's 3 though. I think it's each is. I think they did 3 5-issue trades.
Oh, that's perfect. That makes sense. So yeah, you should read this. It's kind of a cool, like, warning about messing around with bio things, but the person who does it from a pure place of just trying to do good. And this one's a really great issue. And having said all that, you really probably could pick it up here at issue 16 and not ever get any of the rest of them and still get what's going on.
Yeah, I'm super salty. I sold all my early Farmhands like 2 years ago. And now I regret every decision I've ever made.
You can always go and reacquire it. That's the beauty of collectibles, Kyle.
I just get the trades. All right. Did you read this one? I know I don't remember if this was on both of our lists or not.
I didn't, just for the sheer amount of things, but it's really hard for me not to read a Cullen Bunn anything.
Right, and it's a Cullen Bunn Shadow Man from Valiant. So this is number 8, and again, not a great jumping in point. Just gonna throw that out there. But this is one of those books that Dan and I are so deep in the weeds on that it's, if he would have not sent it to me, I'd be like, dude, how are you not gonna? But no. So when you take Shadow Man, who's kind of I would say he's the Tucker and Dale versus Evil of the Valiant universe.
Yes.
It's dark, but it's funny. It's dark, but it comes from a place of humor.
He has a funny relationship with his Loa, which is always with him. So
very funny relationship with his Loa. But you add Cullen Bunn's general horror muscle to it, and it really does take the story to a dark place. But it still has those hints of the humor that I've always liked about Shadow Man. And I will say this: I'm an Exo Man of War guy. Like if you're like, Kyle, what Valiant do you like? Exo Man of War, and that's the list.
Arc is the bomb.
Right, Shadow Man is now number 2 on the list, like because of this series. I can't talk about this book without spoiling it because we're 8 issues in, and if you haven't read 7 and you don't plan to read 9, it's going to make no sense what I say. But go back and pick up the previous issues and jump in on this book, because it's not often you see Cullen Bunn's sense of humor in a book, but it's twisted and it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, there's like 2 kind of balanced parts of the Valiant universe. One is just the regular old superhero part of the universe where you find Exo and the Geomancer and all those guys. And then you've got this side, which is the dead side, where you find Shadow Man and Punk Mambo and all of those guys. And so when you sometimes get them married, like when you did the Book of the Dead series that they had, it was in the middle. It's a good series if you can find it. But yeah, it's if you would like only dark stuff, you can just pick the dark side of this universe and you do just fine.
Right. And I lived on the opposite side for a long time, but we're reading this and we're reading what's the one with Peter Stanchek?
That is Harbinger.
We're reading that, and like I liked the Toyo Harada series, the last one they did. So I'm kind of venturing into that middle ground now. So
Valiant has you now. See,
Miss Jen, do 2.
Do what?
Do 2 books.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, gotcha. Easy reader, is there a bunch of Easter eggs in the back of the farmhand? Is that what you were talking about? I'm gonna have to go look now because I did not notice that there were Easter eggs. They went right over my head. All right, so sometimes when you say you can jump in anywhere and it'll make all the sense in the world, I will tell you that Daisy 5, which is the end of this series, which Joe D. McPhee mentioned today, so I picked it out so I could read it. Because I think I read number 1, and I haven't read anything in between. And so I would say 100% you need to have the stuff in between to understand what's happening in this one. Although it was very clear that this has been a long time kind of building up. The Daisy feels like they were chosen as some kind of spiritual warrior for the series. But the way that it plays out, like you would kind of think by the way they look that they're like angelic in background. They're more like medieval knights in the leaning look of it. And the names all remind me of biblical names that are associated with demons. So it's really dark, really cool dark, but very, very dark. And it very clearly makes a very good ending for the series, but I know it would be so much richer if I'd read 2, 3, and 4 to know what the development for that character was and why all this got brought to a head. And is this a big double cross, which is what it feels like at the end. So
yeah,
it's a ooey book.
That's one that I've completely missed for that very purpose. Like I missed number 1. I kind of flipped through number 2. I'm like, wait for the trade.
Mm-hmm. I think that's the right way. I think that's probably how I'm going to consume it. So I'm going to wait for that trade and pick it up. Because everybody that I know that's reading Daisy is like, talks about Daisy all the time. They're always like, well, I can't wait till the next issue. So, or they say things like people are missing out because they're not reading Daisy.
Well, and that's what I had heard. So they're going, you're missing out if you're not reading. I'm like, okay, I'll pick it up. Well, I'm going to have to wait.
All right, so I'm going to just like use my powers of deduction here because I don't know. This is Statics, and it is done by Jeffrey Lewis. And it makes mention in the book about the book 8 Ball. So maybe this person did 8 Ball also. But it has a very Fantagraphics kind of like there's a bunch of stuff going on in this. There's a center story, which is like seriously cool, that tells the story of a family that is on like a ship going across the ocean, and they get caught in one of those, I forgot what it's called, where there's just like no wind. You get stuck there, and you just kind of like have to paddle your way out or wait for the wind to come back up, and you end up in this dead space. So that's a cool story. And then they've got this story with some superheroes in it called Super Whatevs. And then they've got these other stories that are peppered through. So it's kind of interesting. They start a story and they're like, well, the more about this later. And then they have another story, and then it's like, well, this will be continued, maybe. So I don't know. It says it's a number 1. So I'm hoping that they do another one because the stories are interesting enough. It's all black and white. It feels like a cool like 80s or 90s rag, and like like the truly underground stuff. Although it's not like, I don't think there's like adult content in there necessarily. Just that it would not appeal to a kid to read. It would appeal to adults that are like, I want something different.
So in that same kind of vein, I read Wrong Earth. This is Wrong Earth, Fame and Fortune number 1 from Ahoy Comics.
Okay.
This is the main story. Well, really, the story is by Mark Russell, and there are covers by Jamal Igle and Gene Ha, who are co-creators on this deal. Who are, I think they're all, I guess, I would call them all muckety mucks at Ahoy now. Like, these are guys that have signed on and are doing a lot with Ahoy. They're editing, they're writing, they're creating. So they're kind of in deep there, which is great because the quality of books that we've seen last week with Guilt and with this Wrong Earth series have really stepped up their game since I first discovered Ahoy a few years ago. But these are all one shots, sort of in that that Zenoscope style, where it's a one shot, but it all takes place in the same world. It's all canonically the same world, and it sort of all exists. It's all the same, but it's independent stories. So anthology style, I guess. And this one is a story. It's called Fame and Fortune. It's about the things people do to get famous and make money. Kinda. You have this character. It's kind of this book is really hard to explain.
Because it's Dragonfly and Dragonfly Man.
Yes, and it's Earth Alpha and Earth Omega. So it'd be like Earth 1 and Earth X in the DC universe, right? One is happy, cheery underwear on the outside, and one is dark and gritty, and everybody's trying to get over on each other on the other end. And it's the same story happening parallel in both universes. And Dragonfly and Dragonfly Man are involved in both stories, and it doesn't end well, and it never does. And it's really an allegory on money. And why money is the root of a great many evils.
Yep.
There's a backup story about why sidekicks are the worst, which is pretty funny. I imagine it's how Batman felt a lot of the time.
Oh, yeah.
So that part was made. I'll be honest, the backup story was maybe my favorite part of the book.
That happens to me all the time, too.
It's the backup story is about how sidekicks are the worst and how the buddy system is annoying when you're in high school. That was that. But the first part of the story, it felt like a lot of what happens. And I'm sure it happened down where you are, like when a sports team wants to build a new stadium or there needs to be a giant civic project, and all of these people with a lot of money come out of the woodwork, but never seem to take the fall for anything that goes wrong with it.
Mm-hmm.
Or, when, the children's hospital is short on money. Well, here's a billionaire to help. Well, the children's hospital has asbestos in the ceiling. Not my fault. That kind of thing. Like it's about that. But, again, in the end, sidekicks are the worst.
I don't know. Do you feel like you're a sidekick in anyone else's universe?
No, I feel like I'm a supervillain in a great many people's universe.
That's awesome. All right. So from Keen Spot, this is related to the robots versus. There's so many robots versus things. Oh shoot! I think it's monkeys versus robot. It's not.
That's a Keen Spot book.
Is that
Monkeys
it?
versus
Okay, so
robots.
that's it. Okay, because there's also ninjas versus princesses, and there's a million.
Right. Zombies versus nerds versus zombies is one of my favorite ones.
Yep. But that's the character from that series. I did not realize they were related. This is Orange Blossom Monkey Clan, by the way.
And that's her name, right? She's Orange Blossom.
Oh, maybe that's.
I think.
They don't ever mention it. It's like one of those books that you like really love, but they don't do enough of like saying the characters' names in the book. They might say it once, and then you're just supposed to remember. Man, I hope if I ever get to write another comic book, I remember not to do that and just like maybe have them wear a shirt with their name on it or something so you could remember it. But we'll just say her name is Orange Blossom. So it's really just like I will be very honest. There are not many words in this book. It's mostly about the really cool art, which is the same art as you see from the original series. And it's a little bit about them ogling her, wolf-form body. It's really actually mentioned in it. So if you want to admire the female form and see her like kick butt with swords and things, this is for you. I really enjoyed it. Every once in a while, I want a book with less words so I can, just read it and get to the story parts and be done. And enjoy a thing and not get stuck reading it for like an hour and a half if it's just going to be about monkeys and swords.
So the book that I read this week that was the fastest read is similar in a way. In that the PDF of the G.I. Joe Real American Hero 40th Anniversary Special, either they sent the PDF out before the word bubbles had been added, or
is it a silent issue?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
So, by the way, guys, if this is a $7.99 book, which it's worth it because in the back is a full unchanged reprint of G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero number 21, which is the original silent issue.
Oh, so worth it then.
Every page is done by a different artist. It says written by Larry Hama, which I assume means he plotted out what he wanted the art to be. Again, I don't know if this book comes with words or not. The version I had did not have it. Can we have Jenna or someone check? Does this book have words in it? I don't even know if it's out this week, to be real honest.
A G.I. Joe 40th Anniversary Special. I don't remember seeing it on the list.
Well, then it's probably not out this week. It's probably out in a couple weeks. IDW sometimes sends us stuff a couple weeks early.
Yeah, because there is a G.I. Joe this week, but it's a numbered one, I think.
Yeah. So, anyhow, this book didn't have any words, but it had art from people like Freddie Williams Jr. And let me see, who else can I think of off the top of my head? Mateo Diaz, S.L. Gallant, Andrew Lee Griffith. A lot of people who have worked on Larry Hama's legendary G.I. Joe runs over the years. So this is kind of an homage to the past. It does tell a new story in picture only, even if there are no words. But if there were words, it would be even better.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be silent. You got the real version.
Comes out May 25th. Oh, wow.
There you go. Comes out May 25th. So they sent it to us like a month and a half early.
I know. Wow.
But there you go.
I guess there's nothing really to spoil, right?
Right. I read it. It was a comic. But yes, it was a silent issue. So I read it in about 2.5 minutes. And I got, oh, hey, this is Real American Hero 21. I wonder if this is the same as my copy. So I went and got my copy and compared the PDF to the original. Mm-hmm. So I know it's unadulterated.
Sorry. The regular one by IDW Publishing is set for April 13th. The deluxe edition is set for May 25th.
There you go.
All right. So, yeah, regular one's up this week.
All right, cool.
Hunt it down. All right. Midnight Rose by Jim Starlin. Man, Jim Starlin!
At Aftershock.
At Aftershock. This is super cool. All right. So here's one of those other, like, the through line for connection is with Farmhand. This is way darker than all that. So it's interesting. The art style feels a little bit like Mike Turner. It has the same kind of like real pretty eyes, thin ink lines, and just really beautiful. But the storyline, and this is like big, thick. This is a prestige format book, and it is a one shot, so you don't have to worry about getting anything else after this one. You jump in and be done. But this one focuses around this character here, you can guess, named Rose, and something happens to her that kind of basically allows her to have like real control over like plants. So if you really didn't like another human being, you could have plants grow out of their face, or, you know, turn their innards to whatever plant life you would want, or
algae,
have them be stuck to the ground or whatever. So this one's really good. It's very violent. It's definitely not for kids. There is like almost nudity in it. But yeah, Starlin knocked it out of the park. This is some good gritty stuff. I'm glad to see him getting in here and showing us he's still got the thing, y'all.
Yeah, when I was working for Aftershock, this was one of the books they kind of announced to us, and I went, oh my God, Jim Starlin at Aftershock, that could be insane. I was personally hoping that Joe Pruitt had talked him into bringing Dreadstar to Aftershock. And I was going to be like, oh man, Dreadstar found a home where it'll be appreciated. But this is great too. Just, guys, throwing this out there. Not every day Aftershock has, what do I want to call that? Risque covers?
It's really true. Yeah.
Right. you don't often see boobs on an Aftershock cover.
I'm just mostly impressed by her abs. I need those abs. I have abs right there.
Right. And there's another Starlin cover that's also sort of in this same vein.
Mm-hmm.
It's the 1 in 10 variant. You don't see that all that often. So it might wind up being a hot book for Aftershock collectors.
I would have totally agree with that. And Josh, yes, kind of like a Dr. Pamela Isley, but it's not. I don't know. She's a pretty dark character, but this is real dark.
Yeah. Why don't you do another one, Jen?
All right. Okay. And I was super excited. Oh, I got another one stuck behind there too.
Yeah, do the one that's behind it because we both read the Breakout.
Okay. Do we want to do Breakout now or next?
No, we'll do it next.
Okay, well, I'll put that down. I'm going to probably give my first I don't understand what I just read review in a long time. This is X-Men 92, House of XCII, and I'm not a Roman, so I don't know how to tell you what that says. This really
62?
felt like they wrote an entire book, and then editorial came and said, that's great, knock out half the words. And then they put that back together, and then it really felt like it was doing the jump around, jump up and get down. We're going to reference all kinds of 92 stuff. And
XCII is 92.
In 90, okay, perfect. Well, there you go. House of 92. So this one has 92 style of art, is reference to the stuff that happens in 92, but it's like it goes back and tries to reposition all of the stuff that happened on Krakoa and the stuff that's currently happening, but like rewriting it as if the 92 crew did it. So it has a different set of kind of like the leaders and bad guys. And I just felt like they did not give them enough pages to do probably what this book needed. Even though I think it's an ongoing series, this is me saying, man, you should have let this poor kid Steve Fox have all the words that he was supposed to have to get what he wanted to get done in this book. And it could also be that I read it really quickly. It also could be me that I just had to like get through it. But yeah, if you loved X-Men 92, you'll like the characters that are in it very much. But I feel like the trying to write over the current Krakoa storyline that's so long and smash it down into that number one might have been too much.
Feels like it probably was.
Mm-hmm.
So should I do one of mine and then we'll come together to do Breakout? All right.
Let's do that.
All right. So Betty Page, The Alien Agenda #2. And I just realized that cover is maybe not for public consumption. Oops. I will get another one. That needs to be slightly covered up by things. So we'll do this cover. Okay. So they've been doing some things with the Betty Page that is very interesting to me, including the story they just finished where Betty Page is essentially Mata Hari or James Bond, like she's a super spy. Mm-hmm. This is a Stephen Mooney written Betty Page book. Oh, I'm lying to you. I'm misremembering things. This is by Annie Mia, the cosplayer, who is also featured on the cosplay cover of this book.
She wrote this?
Yes.
Oh man, way to go, Annie Mia.
Yeah. She's writing this whole series. This is Betty Page is Indiana Jones. They are this after the first issue, they find themselves in ancient Egypt. And they're trying to find they're on a treasure hunt essentially. And this is the next set of steps to get to where they're going in that treasure hunt. And this takes place in ancient Egypt. And it's very much Betty is Indiana Jones in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, essentially.
Sorry, but I am not going to dig for ancient artifacts in those heels.
You know, in the book, she's not wearing them.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes more sense.
Well, and and this is what made this book notable for me, right? So often when they've been doing these Betty Page books, it's Betty looks like this while also being a spy, which is totally incongruous. in this book, she's like wearing jeans and a button-down t-shirt, like, or a button-down shirt, like you would if you were going to go and be traipsing through, the pyramids or whatever. There is a scene in this book that I'm going to minor spoiler. They encounter a mummy that has extra natural powers. And it reminded me of a joke I read on the internet yesterday that says mummies and zombies are the same thing, just from different socioeconomic backgrounds. And it made me think of that. So this book was a lot of fun. The first issue was a lot of fun. It's way better than I expected a book from, and I'm not saying anything against Annie Mia, but it's way better than I expected this series to be. I was getting a little tired of the Betty Pages, just James Bond stuff. And this takes it a whole different direction, even though it is a direction that feels very familiar in terms of it's the, Indiana Jones.
I'm super happy about that because you want people that and think are cool people to succeed. So I'm happy to see that's happening here.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're talking about Breakout by my friend Zach Kaplan. You know him from Eclipse, Port of Earth, Lost City Explorers, and I always forget the last one because my brain stops about then. But Breakout is super cool.
Power Rangers.
Huh?
Power Rangers.
No, not Power Rangers. He's never written Power Rangers.
Didn't he do Power Rangers?
Nope. You're thinking of Frank Gogol.
No.
They're
Kaplan's only
each other.
Kaplan's only done 4 series, but they're 2 at Image and 2 at Aftershock. The other Aftershock one is the one that I get stuck on in my brain.
Join the Future.
Join the Future. That's it. What's so funny is it's one of my favorite ones, but the name of it I can't get. So Breakout has this premise that these square things, kind of like the board cube, just show up. They don't arrive. They just appear, kind of like in the movie Arrival, where they just out of thin air they show up. And they are impenetrable. They can't be they tried to break through them and put bombs, and they've done everything they can to try to break into these things. But they're abducting young people between certain ages. I think it's 12 and 18 or something.
Something like that, like 12 and 20, 11 and 20, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
They say it very specifically in the book, and I can't remember the numbers.
Yeah, you want to take it from there?
The elevator pitch to this for me is it's Prison Break with space aliens or something else. These cubes show up and they're not exactly sure where they're from or what their origin is, but it becomes very clear that all of the people in this book are anti-cube, which I don't know if that makes them sphericists or what, but that's a joke I've been saving all day. But they are anti-cube and they're trying to figure out how to defeat the cubes. Which you just remove one side and it's like, anyhow. It's so this feels to me like it's a heist story, or because it's called Breakout, I assume it's like Prison Break. Like it's one of those things is they're gonna try and do some sort of reverse heist movie kind of concept. But it really does, and I will say this book very delicately dances the line between things that were experienced in modern times with lockdowns and school shootings and drills at schools. Very delicately walks this line by framing it all against, hey, there are these giant cubes that are over there. It starts off with what to me looks like what would be an active shooter drill in a school. And turns out, no, it's an active cube drill. It's that kind of thing. And so it really delicately walks these political lines and stories that we deal with by framing it against this really strong science fiction background. So it was a super fun read. I'm super interested to see where we're headed. It feels like the first 10 minutes of an Ocean's 11 movie in this book. Like, it's about to get really complicated and you're not going to follow it completely, but it's all going to come together in the end in a really neat way.
Yeah. I would say for fans of things like Four Kids Walk Into a Bank or Night Owl Society, because it's at the
that's a
center,
really good one.
Yeah. Yeah, it has
Night
it has
Owl
young
Society is
people
a
as heroes.
Night Owl Society is a really good tie-in.
That's why they pay me the big bucks.
Clearly.
The no money I've made for 7 years doing these reviews.
Well,
I just love doing them. I love doing it. All right. How about Nightmare Country? Everyone's been buzzing about this one, but I gotta tell you, not for the like queasy.
that one's in the
Because it's
Sandman universe, right?
totally in the Sandman universe. This is written by James Tynion. Hey Matt, and it stars a character that I guess is part of their universe. It's like Mr. Oh, I'm gonna forget his name now. He has teeth for eyes.
Oh, this is gonna bother me. He's one of my favorite characters. He's gonna be the premier bad guy in the Sandman show. The Corinthian.
Corinthian, that's it. The Corinthian. I was like the amalgamation.
Like, I know it's biblical. That's how I remember it. Is it's biblical.
Yeah, this one is like super trippy. It kind of like throws you into like it follows this main person who is telling somebody else that you don't really see until a little bit later about like their dreams. Like they have this kind of dream with this kind of theme, and they've got these kind of dreams, these kind of themes, and then it kind of takes you into actually introducing you to the Corinthian, who I guess like eats other people's eyes with his teeth eyes, which is just way too creepy. It's like one of those things like the book is so good, but I'm probably not continuing because I just can't. That's like too dark for me. It's the reason why I couldn't really finish Cullen Bunn's the book where it takes place in an insane asylum, and there's like has a character named Xerxes that his like just wears a paper plate over his face that's been cut out. I could not.
Eye action.
Just made one issue, and I was like, I'm just gonna tell you it was the best horror ever made because I couldn't finish it.
There's a Bill Sienkiewicz variant of this that I'm going to spend what my financial advisor would call an unreasonably healthy amount of money to get. Oh my God, that's beautiful.
Yeah, I have a feeling that this is gonna be like like the Sandman universe, at least for us, has been kind of like hasn't been super strong for the last, I don't know, 5 years.
And I'm a Sandman nut. Like it's one of my favorite things. This is the Bill Sienkiewicz cover. Like that's gorgeous.
Creepy.
So if you remember from Sandman Volume 1, just so the little Corinthian backstory, he's the one that Dream finds at the serial killer convention.
That makes sense.
And just another little thing before I go on to a book that I can talk about in about 20 seconds. The Sandman audiobooks from Audible. Pick them up. If you can't bring yourself to read it because it's too hard to read, it isn't easy to listen to, but it's really well produced. And
these released this week too, just so you can get yourself a big fat Sandman Volume 1.
I have 2 of those coming, 1 in each cover.
It was the Unsound. That's it.
All right. So speaking of Sandman, Neil Gaiman's Norse Mythology. It's a Thor adjacent story. That's all I'm going to say about it because otherwise it gets too spoilery and too kind of whacked out. But it's Neil Gaiman telling a very true adaptation of actual Norse mythology. And this is a Thor adjacent story. It's a little more Odin heavy than Thor heavy, but still Thor adjacent.
Perfect. I am not going to review my Thor 22 because I realized it was the second printing, which is so dumb of me. Like I enjoyed reading it again. When I got to the spoilery part, I was like, wait a minute.
Well, then I'm going to skip Evil Ernie on my list.
Okay. I'm going to go quickly through the stuff on my board since we're getting close to the end here. So Venom, this cool series that's been running that you have Rom V and Ewing going back and forth every issue. They've been kind of focusing on specific things. You've got in last issue you had this character emerge, which I'm not going to tell you a lot about just in case you didn't get to read it because it's very spoilery. He shows up and starts attacking Venom, who, if you don't know, that's Eddie Brock's son in there now, because Eddie Brock has lost the symbiote. So he's like kind of smack talking, but he's getting really pushed around by this new character. So don't miss this. This is so good.
All right. I'll just be real quick on this one. This is Angel number 4. I just wanted to have a chance to say demons that came from a possessed porta potty.
Oh, nice.
That's a thing that happens in that book.
I mean, why didn't they put that on the cover then so they could like really sell it?
Because if they did, people would have reacted like I went, is this a funny book or not?
Josh, I guess you can spoil folklore from the 8th century if you don't know which one is being attempted in that one.
Yeah, that's kind of the spoiler of it, right? Is if I say who's in it, it'll give away the story.
The What If Miles Morales deals with Miles Morales as Wolverine. This is kind of like the emerging of his powers, and there's way more people in his life that have taken on what would be traditional roles from other Wolverine adjacent characters. And I don't want to tell you who they are because that's part of the fun of this experience, but does feature the first appearance of Miles as Wolverine. That's not a spoiler because he's on the front cover.
Immortal Red Sonja. This is a new Red Sonja number 1 from Dan Abnett. The origin of the new costume. There were a lot of people. Costume. Yes, there were a lot of people who were not a lot of happy about changing Red Sonja's costume. But once you see the origin of the chainmail shirt, like you're like, oh crap! All right, this is amazing, and I'm in. I'm a big fan of the old Red Sonja costume. The new Red Sonja costume is not entirely non-sentient.
I could wear this now at cosplay. The other one, there's no way.
It's true. This is a cosplayable Red Sonja costume, like
totally
in a big easy way. Except you wouldn't want to wear the chainmail shirt. It is not your friend.
It's muscular thigh friendly, which makes me happy. Soccer thighs for the win. All right. Oh, sorry. Now I got things in the middle.
I like the. Go ahead. I just wanted to call out the names changes. I like the idea of Miles being someone other than Spider-Man, if only because it means we get the opportunity to have a Miles-averse. Right? We can have Miles Morales as Spider-Man. We can have someone like Miles as Wolverine. Have somebody like Miles as a whole bunch of different people.
That's how we got Gwenpool. That's how we got Spider-Gwen.
Exactly. It gives you the opportunity to have multiple lives of a similar character, which is, and ironically, kind of what I liked about the Red Sonja, right? It's like, I don't know that for sure this is the same Red Sonja that was in the Jimmy Palmiotti, Amanda Connor Red Sonja. I don't know for sure that it's not, but it gives you opportunities to do stuff with multiple Sonjas.
Nick, we love the new Red Sonja. We're going to cosplay it. Kyle's working on his costume right now.
Yeah, I'm going to look real good in that shirt.
Yep. Elektra takes Elektra in current continuity. This is 100. Puts her as not the Daredevil, but addresses her as her clone. So I guess that's a thing. And pits her against Typhoid Mary, who has multiple personalities. Who knew? Ta-da.
That's all the things on my list.
Okay. And then I have just this one, right? Lost Garden. Flashpoint Beyond is probably going to be the huge book this week. Your LCS should have ordered enough about it. If you want to get caught up with everything that happened in Flashpoint, there's a really good comics history YouTube that will play. Like if you go and find the Flashpoint Beyond video on YouTube from the DC channel, if you let that play, the next thing that naturally plays is the Flashpoint history, in which they go through every single tied-in book to Flashpoint and get you caught up. So you can be in the know if you didn't read the original Flashpoint series. But I didn't read it, and I didn't need to. This one has enough in it to make me understand in the storytelling. This is amazing, and I am not a traditional DC reader. This one puts all the characters back into trouble because what they had originally righted at the end of Flashpoint, when they had to go back and fix everything, they got messed up by the changes that were made. They fixed all those, but now someone's gone and messed it up again. And so this is, as main character, it's Thomas Wayne going back and trying to figure out how to make sure that history happens the way it's supposed to, because the world needs Batman. It needs Bruce. Even though Thomas would have rather have been the good Batman that worked out, because that's what he wants with all his heart. But he's looked forward and backward in time and realizes that Bruce is the way. So this is what's going on. This is the good one.
And here you thought we were going to forget. You said righted?
Righted.
They righted it, eh?
They righted it.
All
It's like when you write a ship when it's turned over.
Oh.
Right. Corrected. Righted.
Oh.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, we're over time. Don't you have a show to go to?
We're done.
Have a good show.
That's it. Thanks, everybody. We appreciate you being here for a minute to skim it. Thanks, Kyle, for pitch hitting.
Yep. Stay tuned on the experience, and we'll talk more about some books.